Hi everyone, it's time for another Ask TradeShark video. The first one was pretty popular, so I thought we'd do another one. I've had some questions through. If you've got any questions that you'd like to see in future videos, drop them in an email or pop them in the comments beneath this one. Crack on. Okay, first question. I would like to know what you do differently when you're trading without a live stream, just seeing the score. When we can see the game, we see everything, like how the player reacts after winning or losing certain points, or if the player may be injured. Over the years, I've seen people almost obsessed with having live video before they'll trade a match, and a lot of people say that they just will not touch a match unless there's a live video. I can understand obviously their point of view, that they want to see as much as possible. Maybe it's because when I was starting out, because I was trading at work, I didn't have live video available. So you get used to just having the score, stats. And I think because of that, I spotted patterns in matches quicker than if I was watching live video. It's just my opinion of it. To say that you see everything doesn't necessarily mean you're seeing the truth. An obvious example is, before he was particularly successful, Andy Murray used to always have something hurting. He'd be limping, his arm would hurt, his hair would hurt, he'd be grumpy, and yet a lot of the time that was a bluff to put his opponent off. And you get a lot of that in tennis, and it's coming in more. You get the fake medical timeouts, etc. So you don't necessarily see the truth, and I think it can be distracting. There are obviously times when having a live video does help, and what I often do is I often use, or usually use, Bet365 for the score and the live video, and I'll have my account signed in so that I can bring up the video if, for example, there's a longer than normal pause between the games. So I can have a look then to get information when I want it, rather than getting flooded with all the extra information of body language and all this. I think body language is limited how much you can gain from that. There are times when it's useful, but I just don't like to be distracted. Really, you can be distracted if there's a commentary on the stream. You can turn it off, but I like to hear, if I'm watching the video, I like to hear the players, I like to hear the umpire. I don't want to turn the volume off, and I just feel more comfortable just having the score, just having the live stats. And definitely, I don't do anything differently whether I've got the live stream or not. I will still be monitoring the inline statistics, and I think if you can concentrate on that, you can see how the statistics are developing through the game, and that helps you spot momentum changes. You know, if a player's second serve points one percentage is rising, then they're getting stronger. If it's dropping, they're getting weaker. If they're hitting more second serves than they were earlier in the match, I think that gives more insight into, we're not experts on reading body language. So personally, that's why I do it. I have the video available so I can pull it up if I need it. If there's a longer delay, or it can actually help if I'm in the Skype room and someone says, "Oh, this player's injured." I can bring it up and have a look for myself just for a few seconds, and then switch it off and just get on with trading it from the stats and the patterns that tennis matches follow. Okay, next question. Can I ask if you find the isolation of working on your own a problem? I spend a lot of time at home at present. I live alone, and whilst I'm not isolated, I certainly find it an effort to not spend days on end just sitting there. Two questions, two issues in that one, really. when you're doing anything on a computer or online, you're isolated. There's never going to be a lot of people around. Betfair trading definitely qualifies for that. And I find that how you handle that depends on the type of person you are. If you need company, if you need the validation of other people about what you're doing, it's tough because you're just not getting it. I find that people reach out. Do people use forums these days? Certainly when I started with Betfair trading, everybody was on forums and there was a lot of aggression there. People, if they weren't instantly hailed as a great trader, they would put other people down. They would criticize anybody's mistakes just to almost find some validation for themselves. Personally, I quite like myself. I quite like my own company. I'm very self-critical. I'm my biggest critic, definitely. But I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And I just don't feel the need to impress people. So I'm quite happy to be sat in a room for X number of hours without anybody telling me how good or bad or whatever. I just don't need it. I don't think it's good to just spend hours and hours and hours sat in your spare room or wherever you are without any social interaction. You do need that. As humans, we need that. Just company. It doesn't have to be someone telling you how good or bad you are. So I mean, there's family, help out with a family business. I've got dogs. There's a nice little community down at the local field. There's probably 20-30 people use the dogs down there, not at the same time. There's a little bit of community there. Neighbours, just don't isolate yourself. I find it easier. I mean, we've probably lived around here 16 years, 15, 16 years. There's only a handful of people who even know my name, never mind what I do, because I just don't. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking out of this window. My desk is right in front of a window, and I see a lot of life in front of me out there, and people seem desperate for company. It's like they can't exist on their own for even a couple of hours, and I'm just not like that. So I can pick or choose. I'm happy to be in a social situation. I'm happy to be surrounded by a crowd of people, but I'm just as happy on my own. Without distractions, without anybody interfering with the way I want to do things. So personally, I don't find that an issue, but definitely if you are doing this and you find yourself sitting for ridiculous amounts of time, you need to get out. You need to find, a bit of a cliche, but find a hobby. Just find a group of people who you get on with, and it might just be your neighbours. It might just be your mates that you've known for years. Don't cut them off. A lot of people don't know about Betfair trading. How many times do you speak to someone about Betfair trading and they've never heard of it? I'd never heard of it until I found the website, Adam Todd's videos. Don't isolate yourself. Force yourself to get out there. The other point in there is I certainly find it an effort. This is from the question. I certainly find it an effort to not spend days on end just sitting there. What I found was if I hadn't made enough that day, I felt I had to stay and make a bit more. And I find it easier to take a break, to go out when I've had a good day. And if I can have a good morning, I might take the rest of the day off. The trading gives me some freedom. Again, the social side of dogs, I got interested a few years ago in dog training. Found I had a real aptitude for it. I've always been good with animals anyway. And the trading allows me to spend time away from my desk training other people's dogs. And it's only small time, and I'm not particularly making any money at it. It's sort of friends and friends of friends, etc. But I just love doing it, and there's the social side of that as well. You need some social interaction. There's a lot of people who over the years have spent all their time totally isolated, sat in their own room, and they're pricks. Betfair attracts a lot of pricks. Maybe it doesn't attract them, but it creates them. If they're not pricks when they start on Betfair, they'll be pricks after a couple of years of it. Unless you get some balance in your life. Everybody's these days talking about life balance, and it's right. You've got to get out as well. It can be difficult though if you are isolated and you don't realize that you're not meeting people because you just get so focused. If you find that you're good at trading as well, the temptation there is to get as good as you can as fast as you can so you can make some money at it. Not easy. Definitely not easy. But try and catch yourself if you're not getting out and about, if you're seeing less of your family, if you're seeing less of your mates. Go and see your mates. It's not going to hurt you if you're away from Betfair for a day. That's that one. Okay, next question. Hi Paul, could I ask the thought process you have when deciding whether to put full stake or part stake into a trade? Are there certain things you look for? You should never enter a tennis match without doing at least some research pre-match. That gives me an opinion on who's going to win, how I think the match is going to go, who's going to start slowly, etc., etc. What I then do is I will monitor the in-play statistics pretty constantly so that I can see how a player's performance is progressing. So maybe they're winning fewer second serve points, they're getting more of their first serves in the court, pretty much everything to get an overall view of how the match is progressing. Now, if you get a situation where your pre-match opinion is totally backed up by the in-play development of the stats, those are the matches that I'm going to be putting more of my stake in. I usually split my stake into 3 or 4 parts. It's usually 3. If the in-play stats are more or less backing up what's happening, but not quite the start that I expected, I'll hold off a little bit. And it's really down to confidence, and I get the confidence from knowing that my pre-match analysis works 85% of the time, and that my method of watching the in-play stats gives me an effective view of how things are going on the court. Once you have confidence in those methods, you can trust what they're telling you. That sound obvious? Seems obvious. The higher the confidence in what the stats are telling me, the higher the stake that I'll put in. Hope that answers that one. Okay, next question. Hi Paul, how do you deal with frustration? Have a wank. Oh, there's more. Sorry. What I mean by that is when a trade goes wrong. I'm a novice trader, really. What I mainly do is in running horse racing, and I'm known to punch the wall out of frustration at times. How do you deal with it? Anybody who's tried Betfair trading or sports betting in general knows about frustration. Tennis matches in particular can turn very quickly, and in my experience 90% of the times when you get frustrated is because you've taken a bad entry. If you take bad value in tennis, you have to be right. Take bad value in any sports trading, you have to be right. And because tennis can turn so quickly, it's just not a good plan for your mental health. I've been known in the past to actually hit myself on the head so hard that I literally see stars. I thought that only happened in cartoons. No, it really happens. Haven't done that for a good 2 or 3 years now. Taking good value is not a guarantee of profit, but if you consistently take good value, you will make money long term. And the amount of time that you're frustrated will be a lot less. There will be times when you've done the right thing, you've taken a good entry, and the player, or in this guy's case, the horse doesn't perform as expected. It's frustrating. I suppose the frustration there is I've done it right and I've still lost. That's going to happen. That's the nature of sport. We're not dealing with robots that do things exactly the same every time. But take good value and you will get less frustration. That's a tip, kids. Write it down. Okay, last question. How much do you value pre-match stats and research once a game goes in play? Slight overlap with one of the other questions, but definitely worth looking at this one. Absolutely vital that you do some research before a match. If you're entering matches with no pre-match research, stop it. You're going to get caught out. You may get lucky sometimes, but long term you will get caught out. You need to know how they are likely to perform. And that doesn't mean that's how they're going to perform. You can get a player who has played fantastic tennis in the first couple of rounds, and for whatever reason, they're just not feeling it today. They've had a row with someone, got a stomach ache, stubbed the toe, whatever it is can affect their mental strength, because a player's mental strength is fragile at the best of times. Mensa does not have a tennis section. You need to accept sometimes that the pre-match research does not reflect what's happening today, and you need to get out. That's a little bit tricky with tennis, because how often do we see a player go 3-0, 4-0 down and then come back not just to win the match but possibly to win the set? So that can be frustrating. Just the nature of tennis trading, just the way it goes. It's why I monitor the in-play statistics. But you've got to have that start point of the pre-match analysis. If you don't want to do pre-match analysis, I know a man who can help you. Look in the information below the video, but it is vital. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. As I said at the start, if you've got any questions that you'd like to see included in future videos, drop me an email or pop it in the comments beneath the video, and if it's an interesting question, it will be included in one of the later videos.